Today we're going to talk about the world's biomes, and our focus question is, can organisms live in isolation? And this goes on the right side on your notebook. So what are biomes? Biomes are ecosystems that share similar climates. And when I use the word climates, I'm referring to temperature, precipitation, which could be rain, snow, sleet, animal life, vegetation type, or the types of plants that grow in the area, and soil type. So the first one that we're going to talk about is a taiga, and the temperatures are very low, and there is precipitation, but it's in the form of snow, and they usually have 40 to 100 centimeters per year. The soil is thin and pretty nutrient poor, and the canopy permits low light penetration. Canopy is referring to the top part of the trees, so they're not letting a lot of light come through. The different vegetation consists of mostly cold-tolerant trees with needle-like leaves, like a pine tree or a fir. And the fauna is the types of animals that live in the area, which are woodpeckers, hawks, moose, bear, weasels, lynx, fox, deer, wolves, and the other ones listed on this page. And they can look something like this picture right here. So you'll notice a lot of really tall trees that are pine, and usually they can be pretty packed together in some areas, creating a really low amount of light getting through. The second one we're going to talk about is the tundra, and this is extremely cold climate. They have really low biotic diversity, so the actual organisms in the area have a really low diversity, meaning there aren't that many different kinds. They have very simple vegetation, so really simple plant structure, not a lot of diversity going on in that as well. And there's a limited amount of drainage for water. They have a really short season of growth and reproduction. So the vegetation and the animals have a really small window of the year in which they can reproduce or grow due to the other parts of the climate that will shorten that. The energy and the nutrients that are found here are in the form of dead organic material, and they have large population oscillations. So this is kind of what a tundra might look like. It's very barren, a lot of abiotic factors, and a very low vegetation, not a lot of tall growing things in the tundra, and it is extremely cold. The next one that we're going to talk about is the desert, and this is 1/5 of the Earth's surface. So the rainfall is less than 50 centimeters per year, and they have specialized vegetation in order to deal with this lack of rainfall. The soils often have a lot of nutrients in them, and disturbances are relatively common. And disturbances can be windstorms or fire or anything of that nature. Reptiles are extremely common here, and mammals are usually very small if they do exist. So like mice and very small rodents. Just like the kangaroo mice of the North American deserts. And deserts look something like this. So you'll notice like very low vegetation. The vegetation is specialized so that it can hold water longer and not lose water, or it can withstand drought conditions or times when there isn't a lot of water. All right, the rainforest has a temperature averaging from 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. It's a relatively warm climate. The annual rainfall exceeds 200 centimeters. The soil is extremely nutrient poor, and decomposition is very rapid because of the humidity, and the soils are really subject to this heavy leaching. The canopy in tropical forests is multi-layered, so there's multiple layers going up vertically of different densities of leaves and different types of vegetation that grow to certain heights. And it allows very little light penetration to the ground level. The vegetation in general is extremely diverse, and the fauna or the animals include lots of birds, bats, small mammals, insects, and some reptiles. And the rainforest looks something like this. And as a whole, the entire rainforest is usually one of the most diverse in terms of organisms and biotic organisms in the world. The temperate forest has a temperature that varies from -30 to 30. So although it has a very wide gap in temperature, It can get very, very cold, and it can also get relatively warm. The precipitation is 75 to 150 centimeters per year, and the soil is extremely fertile or rich, and it has a lot of decaying litter that helps with that nutrient cycling. The canopy is moderately dense and allows light penetration to the floor, and the vegetation is characterized by usually 3 to 4 tree species per square kilometer. The fauna is usually represented by squirrels, rabbits, skunks, birds, deer, mountain lions, bobcats, black bears. The typical woodland creatures that you think of are usually found in the temperate forest. And it can look something like this. Grasslands are found on every continent except Antarctica. They usually have regular droughts followed by hot temperatures. They have few trees or shrubs, and they're usually used for farmland at this point. And they look something like this. The marine water organism is the largest of all the ecosystems, and there's multiple different zones, and all of the zones have a really large diversity of species. Some people actually say that the ocean contains the richest diversity of species, even though it contains fewer species than there are on land, in terms of richness or the amount in the area. The coral reefs are extremely widely distributed in warm, shallow waters, and then there's also these areas called estuaries, which is like Lake Pontchartrain. And this is where freshwater streams or rivers merge with the ocean. So Lake Pontchartrain is not actually a lake, it's an estuary. And this mixing of water creates different salt concentrations, which makes a really, really interesting and unique ecosystem where both freshwater and marine organisms can survive and thrive. When we think of marine, we usually think of something like this, which is a coral reef with many coral reef fishes. And then last but not least, our freshwater. We have freshwater is defined as having a salt concentration lower than 1%. So plants and animals in freshwater regions are adjusted to really low salt content. And there's different types of freshwater regions. And these are ponds, lakes, streams, rivers, and wetlands. And they look something like this. So now for the rest of the class, you're going to move on to do the biomes interactive. The website is listed on your science website, so use that link. If it pops up at the bottom about the file causing harm, hit keep. It will not harm your computer. And then fill out your worksheet along with your interactive.